In this presentation, we're going to look at how to create visuals for presentations, give you some ideas, the do's and don'ts of creating slides. So, slides. A title is a good idea. It helps your audience, and it also helps you if it relates to which part of the presentation you're doing. You might also want to have a logo of some kind, if that's part of your corporate image. Generally, you should have one topic per slide. Visuals, pictures, are a good idea if they add something to your message. Colors of your fonts, black and one other color is a good idea. Too many colors together gets a bit confusing. And text, how much text do you actually need on the slide? And that's a really important issue, and we're going to explore that. So, which of these two slides is better? Let's have a look at them in a bit more detail. This slide is a terrible slide. Just been copied from Wikipedia. It's got extraneous things like footnote numbers and things like that. Some things are underlined because they're links. And worst of all, there's far too much text. This is a reading text, and your slides are not for your audience to read. If you want your audience to read this text, give it to them as a handout. Don't put it on your slide. This is much better. It has the key points, but it's still not good enough, because we've got things like 1 meter, 6.7 meters, 58 meters. These are the most important things you're going to tell the audience about these worms, and they don't have to listen to you if they're on the slide. So this slide, which just structures what you're going to say, you're going to say something about bristleworms and then say something about the African giant earthworm and marine bootlace worms. You're going to say something about these, and the bullet points here help the audience know the sequence of what you're going to talk about. So they're ready to hear something about bristleworms, and you're going to talk about how long they are, for example. So they have to listen to you to get the information, not read it and ignore what you're going to say. So this slide design is much better. Remember, your slides are not handouts. So don't have slides which are full of text. So let's look at text on slides. Some rules or guidelines. 6 lines maximum is a good idea. And a maximum of 6 words per line. That makes 36 words in total. Font size, 26 plus for text. Of course, this depends on the particular font. Or 36 plus for titles. And think about your images. Do you actually need an image? What does this image add? Or is an image all that is required? Let's look at an example. Here, we've got a big, strong image. We've got a title, Riding the Sandworm, and then we've got the 3 points which we're going to talk about. This is enough for this slide, and the audience know what we're talking about. They have a picture of the sandworms, and they know we're going to talk about training, skills, and the hero's journey. So how the person will train to ride the sandworms, and how this will help the hero defeat his enemies. Or this might be enough. A title, the humble croissant, and an illustration. In some cases, a picture is all that's required. No text is required. Generally, keep it short and simple. There are, of course, exceptions. If you're analyzing a text, because that's what you want to do, you could have the whole text or part of the text on the slide with what you're talking about highlighted in a different color. But you should only do this if you've got a lot to say about this text and you give this text as a handout. So it's not just on the slide. The students need to be able to make, or the audience need to be able to make notes on what you're saying, because it's impossible to make notes just by looking at it and scribbling down what you're saying. So you need to have a shared document, the one on the screen and the one in their hand. So if you do want to discuss a text at length, because you're analyzing it for some academic purpose, then you must ensure that your audience actually has this text as a handout. But this is really the only case that you need a lot of text on a slide. You might be presenting some kind of diagram, like this, for example. But in this case, you need to animate it and talk it through with the audience. So, as you reveal the different elements of the diagram, you would be talking and highlighting their importance and what it means for the audience and how all this together works as a diagram and as information. So complex diagrams like this have to be animated. You might want to present some kind of infographic as your only illustration. In this kind of case, you should think about hiding and then revealing the points which you're going to be talking about. So there are exceptions. Now some warnings. Don't do this or this, and never do this or this. Especially don't do this. These kinds of things, just because they can be done, doesn't mean that they should be done. Just keep it simple. Reveal, hide, that kind of thing. Simplicity is the key to your animations when you're animating a slide. And remember, people like Henry V, Joan of Arc, Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, Ronald Reagan, none of them used PowerPoints to make their most important speeches, which changed history.